A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Houston Chronicle editor of opinion, Lisa Falkenberg, and Raul Ramos, associate professor of history at the University of Houston. Lisa, Raul, welcome to Houston Matters.
Hi, Craig.
Thanks.
Panel, 6 Houston area restaurants Monday were awarded Michelin stars by the French Tire Company, which held its Michelin Guide Award ceremony here in Houston for the first time. And while we congratulate those and other area restaurants recognized in various categories by the company, as Houston Public Media reported over the summer, there's some maneuvering behind the hype. Houston First, the sales and marketing arm of the city government, told us last summer that it was paying Michelin $90,000 a year for a 3-year period in order to have Houston restaurants included in its annual guide. Restaurants in 4 other Texas cities are also now being reviewed by Michelin, though the total cost of the Texas-wide deal was not disclosed by the company. Rather, in a news release, Michelin reiterated that its, quote, selections process remains completely independent of the financial arrangement. Houston First pays Michelin. The company hands out Michelin Guide stars to Houston restaurants. Everyone hypes our culinary scene. But it's totally above board. Trust us. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Raul Ramos.
I think it's good. First of all, I needed to say that this is a testament to the work that Alison Cook has put in. And the fact that she's retiring now kind of shows the trajectory of Houston restaurants now being world recognized.
The longtime food critic at the Houston Chronicle who just made that announcement this week.
Yes. And so I think this is a great moment. Look, here's the deal. This started off as a travel guide that a tire company put together to advertise and promote the tire company. So more Europeans would drive from city to city and use up tires and then buy their tires. So it only stands to reason that this is about advertising and marketing. It is for Michelin, it is for Houston, it is for these restaurants. And it's shown that a restaurant can see an increase in sales, an increase in profits with recognition, with every star that it goes up. So this does accomplish what Houston First is meant to do, which is raise the tourism of Houston, raise the profile of the city, get more interest in it. Texas is not the only place paying into this. And by the way, I don't think this is necessarily a money maker in, just as an operation as far as Michelin Guide goes. They do, it's still part of their promotion, right? It's still promoting the brand Michelin, and you pay a premium for Michelin tires a lot of the time. So this is creating that kind of aura, if you will. And so California pays as well. Florida pays. Texas is not the only one paying for this. Personally speaking, I'm both thrilled to see some of my favorite places get recognized, but also now dreading the fact that it's going to be harder to get in and you're going to have to pay more for some of these restaurants. So it brings that success. It's certainly going to make Houston a focus and a more exciting place that way. But with success comes its own cost, and so I think you might see some pushback on that as well.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Lisa Falkenberg.
Probably all of them. I mean, meritocracy is dead, Craig. Like, you can buy everything. And so, I mean, I think we're seeing that from, President Trump's cabinet picks. You can even buy your own slice of the federal bureaucracy that didn't previously exist. So anyway, no, I think I'm with Raul. It's really great that Houston is, even if we had to, buy a little advantage, that we are being recognized in this way. The more, different contests and I guess the more food culture that we're incorporated in, the chefs that come, the influencers who come and shine light on the really cool thing that we have here, the better. And I'm glad you recognize Alison Cook. I love her. She's the only Houston Chronicle writer who can make me drool. I'm going to miss her so much. And, just rushing off to the restaurant like within hours of the review, because then you can't get in the next day. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, you're right. It's going to make it harder to get into some of these places. But I think in the end, it's a really good thing for Houston.
It's funny you mentioned influencers, because it seems like TikTok and Instagram and those kinds of places are now becoming places where people are looking for before going to eat, and on how to pick a place. You might start seeing a generational divide. In other words, Michelin Guide maybe is from a previous generation. It certainly has a certain amount of cachet with folks who can pay you that much. But in other ends, I think Instagram and TikTok are having an effect that we don't even see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It did, however, withdraw its recommendation of one restaurant when it found out that the restaurant was closed. So, oops.
Oh my gosh! So how long did that take?
A couple of days here.
But how long had it been closed?
A little longer than that.
Yes, I think Allison made that point. This is one of the side effects of a review organization parachuting into Houston and making the reviews and not really coming up organically through Houston like the Chronicle writers. Yeah,
I mean, but the more voices out there, the better. Obviously, if you really love great writing, you're probably going to read Newspaper Critic. I really like the full menu. I really love the clinking glasses in the background and the No, I'm always taking notes. Like, where these people they make it to all these great places I've never tried. So whatever, the more voices, the better. And you have to, like everything, study the source, understand the motivations and the qualifications for judging.
Panel, a new ride-sharing service will soon make its debut here in Houston. As the Cron's Janet Miranda reported this week, Black Wolf is a small rideshare startup seeking out drivers who fit a specific background. They must have a clean license, a spotless background check, and a permit to carry guns. Yes, Black Wolf drivers are armed and usually ex-military or law enforcement. Founder Kerry King Brown, who's worked for 19 years in private security, says the drivers are trained in de-escalation and that the gun acts as a deterrent. His company currently operates in Atlanta, Orlando, and Miami. He plans to expand next to Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Sure, there's Uber, but for just a little bit more, you could soon ensure your rideshare driver is packing. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Lisa.
Well, I guess, again, good and ugly. It is a good thing to have options, and there is a constitutional right to carry in this country and in this state. I think that things could get ugly really quick if a tipsy, rider gets in. Now, of course, the tipsy rider chose this particular service instead of, say, Uber. But I have to wonder, is the gun for the outside world or for keeping the passengers in line? In what scenario would they actually bust that out? I don't know. Is this also a commentary on how concerned people are with crime when it's actually on decline? I'm not saying it's not out there. Of course it is. But it just seems like things like this just contribute to a false narrative that we're under siege. I mean, of course, we have the political side saying who we're under siege by, which isn't statistically true. But, in most of the big cities, we did see a surge in crime. It's on decline. Is this really needed? I don't think so. And I think it kind of sends a message that, we should be more fearful for our lives than we are. In fact, you're more dangerous just being in that. You're more in danger just being in that car on a Texas freeway than you are from somebody who might, come up and try to rob you.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Raul.
I didn't even think about the road rage implications to this. That's something that I thought was overall ugly. Look, if your idea of cities is that it's a crime-ridden hellscape, then you should pay for that idea, as misinformed as it is. And I think a lot of the folks that would be choosing that might be under that impression, might be fearful of that. So I think there's a market. For instance, Uber now has an option where if you have your child and need your child transported, that they have certain drivers who have, not only background checks, but have childcare, maybe not childcare. I mean,
that would be awesome. Childcare. Right. Just drive my kid around the block for 2 hours until they fall asleep. My first child, I would have paid for that.
That's another service they could be offering.
There's an app for that. You just know.
Drive my child around.
There is now. That's funny, Craig, because I feel so stupid. Back then, she's 15 now, but it was the hair dryer. And I was just like with the hair dryer trying to get her to go to sleep. And now there's an app for that. White noise. Right, the third kid is out like a light.
No, but I do think this brings up all sorts of possibilities. I was thinking about maybe a reality show here, or kind of game show. Cash Cab meets Dog the Bounty Hunter. Somehow
we got confessions in there too. Let's have some confessions.
Right, you can have taxi cab confessions. Look, with guns, it's something.
I'd be much more inclined to confess. I'll admit.
Right, there you go.
He held a gun in my head. What did you want me to say, honey?
Panel, as heard on NPR this week, the National Toy Hall of Fame has announced its 2024 inductees: My Little Pony, Transformers, and the Uno-like card game Phase 10. Other finalists that fell short include other branded and generic toys ranging from Hess toy trucks to Pokemon trading cards to the trampoline and the balloon. Criteria considered for inclusion in the hall, based at Rochester, New York's Strong National Museum of Play, include longevity, recognizability, and play value. Judges include historians and educators. And as Chief Curator Christopher Bench tells NPR, they look for toys that encourage learning, creativity, discovery, and socialization. The latest inductees to the National Toy Hall of Fame are My Little Pony, Transformers, and Phase 10. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Raul?
I think this is good. I mean, clearly they're tapping into nostalgia about toys and games and childhood. I went and looked a little closer at this Toy Hall of Fame. First of all, they started their Hall of Fame in 1998, which not coincidentally, I would imagine, is connected with the film Toy Story, which had a lot of these toys and nostalgia and sort of bringing these toys to life, or at least versions of these toys to life. And when you look at their list of Hall of Fame inductees in previous years, you see that kind of connection with your childhood. But to your point about these commercial ones, and this year it seemed to be mostly commercial, company-made, branded toys, as you said. But if you look at previous years, they have some pretty amazing ones. They had a stick, sand, a blanket, and a cardboard box in previous years. And I kept thinking the cardboard box, that would have been a great one.
Oh, yeah.
So what I was thinking about, like, what are some, some that missed out, not only Balloon and others, but the one I kept thinking about was rock, paper, scissors. Like, we should have rock, paper, scissors. I mean, how many disputes has that settled? You know, how many times has rock, paper, scissors been like what siblings do to decide who gets to sit in the front seat? You know, all of these things that are part of our childhood that, sometimes we buy at the store, but a lot of the times we just make up with our siblings.
I love the fact that you don't have to buy anything to play rock, paper, scissors, or like the little kids who put a rock, pocket full of rocks. That should be in there. All three of my children always have pocket full of rocks.
I'm not sure that we would be doing a service to children everywhere if we said, a Hall of Fame toys, a pile of rocks. It seems like that could be a problem.
Those are the best. And the stick. So my former husband was from Bangladesh, and he would tell this story about how that was his toy before they immigrated here. Like, he had this one stick, and his grandmother every day would put it away, and the next day, she'd save it for him, and he'd get it back out. We actually had a friend who kind of self-published a book about that. This is wonderful. I was a My Little Pony. I wouldn't say devotee, but I enjoyed an occasional, My Little Pony. It's more of a Barbie girl.
Raul's nodding. Were you a brony?
G.I. Joe, which I don't think was on the list, but Barbie is on the list.
Toys are fine, but I always have to keep reminding myself, the more toys you buy, the more creativity you're kind of sapping from your kid, because he won't have to create that toy anymore out of something. The only people who are bored are boring people. And so when these kids come up to me, I want this, I've got to have this, I'm bored. Okay, well, figure it out. We've got a house full of random objects. You can do something.
Lisa Falkenberg is the editor of opinion at the Houston Chronicle. Raul Ramos is an associate professor of history at the University of Houston. Lisa, Raul, thank you.
Thank you.